Okay. Well, today class we're going to be learning about factoring trinomials of the form x squared plus bx plus c. In this, before we get started in learning about this, let's just review a little bit of past multiplication rules. Like for example, whenever you see something like this, you will apply FOIL, which is first, outer, inner, and last. So if we do that, let's see what we get. X times x becomes
2x.
X squared.
Oh, x squared.
X times 3 becomes 3x. 2 times x is 2x. And then
Plus
2 times
6.
3 is plus
Plus
6. Now you combine these like terms,
Add the left
and then 3 plus 2 become
x
5x
squared plus 5
plus 6.
plus 6.
Okay? So notice that from this we multiply, so we get this. But if we want to go back, from here back to this process is called factorization. So if you think about it, from here to here is multiplication. So the opposite is factorization. So let's begin with a simple example. X squared plus 7x plus 10. Well, I'm going to do this example first, and then I'm going to introduce the rules of factoring all this other stuff. So the first step of doing something like this is you're going to do 2 parentheses, going to have an x and an x, right? Because x times x gives you x squared. And then you're going to look at the signs, these signs. But let's look over here for the rules of factorization. Now you have done this, x and x, and you have the signs. If the third term is positive, you look at the second term to determine the sign of both. So for example, in this one, if the third term is positive, you look at the second term to determine the sign of both. If the third term is positive and the second term is negative, the third term is positive, you look at the second term to determine the sign of both. This one's negative, so therefore both are negative. So let's go back to our example here. If the third term is positive, you look at the second term to determine the sign of both. So in this case, both are positive. Now you look at the third term. What are the factors of 10? The factors of 10 are 1 and 10, and 2 and 5. There are no other factors of 10. Now let's see. Which of these factors, when you add them together, give you a 7?
The second one.
2 and 5. So if that's the case, you could write a 2 here and a 5 here. And you're done. But how do you check that you have done the correct way? Well, notice what we did here. In order for us to check, we need to multiply this. And if we multiply this and we get back to this, we have done the correct methodology. So let's try. X times x is x squared. X times 5 is 5x. 2 times x is 2x. 2 times 5 is 10. And if we just add this stuff together, we get the original stuff back. You see? So this is a way that you could check your work.
So to check that, you just do the FOIL method?
Yes, you FOIL this to
Okay.
get back into the original.
All right.
But your answer is this. This is your answer, right? This is what they want when they're asking you to factor. Let's try this one here. All right, the first step, 2 parentheses, x and x. Look at the signs. This is positive, right? So look here. This is positive, but the other one is negative, right? So therefore, both will be negative. Both will be negative. The factors of 10, when added together, give you 7.
2 times 5.
2 and 5, right? So 2 and 5. What's the difference between this one and this one? Well, sign here and sign here, right? Because the second term was positive, both were positive. Because of the second term was negative, both are negative. But remember, the caveat is you have to look at the third term to determine the sign of both. I'm sorry, you have to look at the third term. If it's positive, you look at the second term to determine the sign of both. Again, one more time with number 3. Let's try this. So we have parentheses, x and x. The signs, this one's a little bit different. This is negative, the third term is negative. So if we look over here, if the third term is a negative, automatically one of them is going to be positive and one is going to be negative. For example, if you have a negative here with the third term, you don't even have to look at the second term. You know that one is positive and one is negative. Another example, if this is negative, again, I don't care whether my second term is positive or negative. I know that one is positive and one is negative. So we go back to the original. In this case, you have negative. So again, I don't care what my second term is. I just have one positive and one negative. Now, again, I look at the factors of 10. My factors of 10 are 1 and 10, and 2 and 5. So notice what's happening here. This is positive, this is negative. It means, which of these, when subtracted, give me a 7? Well, if I subtract 10 minus 1, gives me a 9, no good. If I do 5 minus 2, that gives me 3, no good. 2 minus 5, that still doesn't give me 7. 1 minus 10 still doesn't give me 7. So there's a problem here. Because there's a problem and there's no way of you doing anything else, this becomes prime. And that's what you write, prime. Let's look at another example here. Here, step 1, x and x. Step 2, you look at the signs. This sign is negative. So that tells me that one is positive and one is negative automatically. Now, let's look at the factors of 10. 1 and 10, 2 and 5. Which of these two, when different signs you subtract, when subtracted, give you a negative 7? Well, if you have 10 and 1, 10 minus 1 doesn't give you that. 5 minus 2 still doesn't give you that. 2 minus 5 still doesn't give you that. So there's a problem. So because there's a problem, it's still prime. So the lesson here should be, notice that if you have the exact same numbers, right? 7x minus 10 or plus 10. The main issue is you have to learn the rules of those signs. The rules of the signs change the answers, whether it's like this or like this or they're prime. That's an important concept. Now let's do a couple more examples, 5 through 8. In this one, step 1. Parentheses, parentheses, x and x. What are the factors of 20? 1 and 20, 2 and 10, 4 and 5, and 3, 4, 5. That's it. We're done. So let's look at the signs, right? This is positive. Since the third term is positive, you look at the second sign to determine the sign of both. So in this case, both are positive. Now, which of these guys, when added together, give you positive 12?
2 and 10.
2 and 10, right? So in this case, it really doesn't matter where you put them, but sometimes later on, it will. All right, so again, how do you check this? You apply the FOIL method, right? And you will get the original one. Let's go back to the number 6. This one. Step number 1, it says what? Parentheses, x and x. Second step, look at the signs. If the third term is positive, right? You look at the second term to determine the sign of both. In this case, it's negative. So both will be negative. The factors of 20, when subtracted, give you 12. Which of these? 4 and 5? No. Minus 2 minus 10 gives you negative 12. So 2 and 10 gives you negative 12. So you have an answer for that one. You have an answer for this one. Okay. Let's do a couple more. Here. This one. X and x. of 20, 2 and 10, 1 and 20, 4 and 5. But before that,
The sign.
the sign is negative here. If the third term is negative, automatically, one
One's
is
gonna
positive,
be
one is
positive,
negative.
one's gonna be negative.
Okay? Which of these guys, when subtracted, give me 12? So 4 and 5 will not give me 12 when I subtract them. 10 and 2, when I subtract them, on different signs, will not give me 12. 10 minus 2 gives me 8, and 2 minus 10 gives me negative 8. Doesn't give me that. And then 1 and 20 also
No.
does not give me 12. So,
it's prime.
but it's prime. Let's start this one here. Let's try this one.
X.
Negative, first x and x, and then it's gonna be the negative, right? So one is positive, and one
One's
is
negative.
negative. Factors of 20 that when subtracted give me negative 12. Well, again, 4 and 5 when subtracted do not give me negative 12. 2 and 10 when subtracted do not give me negative 12. And 1 and 20 out of top is gonna give me negative 12. So again, this also is prime. So you see, sometimes it works, sometimes it does not. So let me just review the rules of factorization trinomials. Step number 1, whenever you see something that looks like this, in that form, parentheses x, parentheses x. Then you look at the signs. If the third term is positive, you look at the second term to determine the sign of both. Again, if the third term is positive, you look at the second term to determine the sign of both. If the third term is negative, see, in this case it's negative, 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 automatically one is positive, one is negative. I don't really care about the second term signs. After this step, you find the factors of the third term that when added equal the middle term. So in this case, it's 10, right? So 10 is 2 times 5 and 1 times 10. So in this case, 2 and 5, what happens here? Does it give me anything? Let's see, x and x. This is negative, right? So that means that one's positive, one's negative. Which factors of 10, when subtracted, give me 7? Neither one. Therefore, this is prime.
I'm still a little confused
With?
with the primes. Okay,
When will you add or
so
when will you
yeah, that's
subtract?
what I'm getting confused. When do you know?
Okay.
Okay,
In this case, you see both are positive,
right,
there you add. Both are negative, you still add, right?
okay,
Because 2 plus 10,
right,
that's 12. Here you have minus 2, you have minus 10.
right.
Minus 2 minus 10 is minus 12. So again, it gives you the correct point
Okay.
here. Here, positive 12, positive 12. However, here, when you know when you add or subtract,
Right.
this one's saying this is positive, this is negative. So it means that you're subtracting these guys. So when the factors, when they're subtracted, which of them give you this middle term? And in this case, none of them give you that.
So I'm still confused. So, okay, like those two, like the first two I know we're adding, but you're saying when it's a positive and a negative, you're gonna subtract.
You're gonna subtract.
Whenever there's a positive and negative,
Right.
you're gonna subtract.
That's right.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah, and I'll just do this more calm and let you guys work on the rest. So let's do 9, 10, and then we're done. Okay, let's do this one. This one again, parentheses, parentheses,
X,
x and x.
both positive?
This is positive, so you look at the second sign
And then
and determine the sign
positive.
of both. And the factors of 20, the factors of 20, we did it already, right? 1 and 20, 4 and 5, and what else? What? 2 and 10. Okay, so which of these guys, when added together, give you 9?
Give you 9,
4 and 5.
4 and 5.
Great. See?
Mhm.
How about this one here? X
X
and
and
X,
X,
factors of 2, oh, now positive, right? If the third term is positive, you look at the second term
and you're both
to
gonna be
determine the
negative.
sign, determine the sign of both.
Okay.
So now, which of these two, when added together, give you a 9?
4 and
4 and 5. Again, now the same situation. X and X, this is negative. If the third term is negative, automatically, one is positive,
and
one is negative. The factors of 20, when subtracted, because you have one positive and
Right,
negative,
so you're gonna subtract.
so subtract it gives me 9. Oh, 20 minus 1, that's no. 5 minus 4, no.
No.
4 minus 5, no. 10 minus 2 is 8. 2 minus 10 is negative 8, so no, right?
Right.
So no, 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 no.
Prime.
So it's prime.
Right.
Okay, I got it.
Let's do this one here. Here, you have x and you have x. The factors, this is negative,
Yeah.
So it's gonna be one
right?
positive.
One's positive,
and one
one's negative. The factors of 20, again, when subtracted, we saw that nothing gave you
Right.
the middle term, right? In this case, it was negative 9.
Right.
So therefore, it's prime. Okay. I think we're good. Thank you.